that I did. And I know that we all destined for greatness, no matter what you've been facing. It's a marathon, no, it's not a sprint. It's for all of the trials and tribulations. Just look at my mom made it. I said I was gonna change it, I did. And I know that we all destined for greatness, no matter what you've been facing. It's a marathon, no, it's not a sprint. Trying to change for the better, all my city, see the difference. From the mamas to the children, every one of us is gifted. It don't matter where you from or where you going, we all in it. Might as well just spread the love instead of hating, just uplift.
Good morning, the back community. Thank you as always for staying involved. Thank you for staying engaged. Um, and also happy holidays to you guys. I know we're just coming out of the Thanksgiving season. Hopefully you enjoyed Thanksgiving with your family and your friends and the people that you love. And we're getting ready to go into the Christmas holiday season as well, which is also a time of chaos and turmoil because everyone is spending the bank to make people happy. But whatever you're going to be doing to celebrate this holiday season, on behalf of the Back community, just want to say happy holidays and thank you for continuing to stay locked in and engaged to what we're doing here at the Back community. But without further ado, I have a friend of mine on the show as always. Most of the people that I bring on here are people who I admire or I'm a friend of or I'm a fan of. And today's guest is all of those things. Even though he has this big Michigan flag behind him, we also share something in common, which I can see right above one of his degrees behind him as well, which is a common love for our undergraduate school, Johnson C. Smith University in Charlotte, North Carolina. Go Golden Bulls. Congratulations on winning the CIAA for the men's football and all that good stuff. But today, we're here to talk about Dr. Anwar Dunbar. Dr. Anwar has written his first book, which is part one, The Engineers, a Western New York Basketball Story, part one. So I want to dive into his process of writing. I want to dive into the reason behind him feeling the need to tell this important story, but I also want to I want the world to realize Western New York's part of history as it pertains to basketball. Because oftentimes Western New York is an area that gets left out of the conversation. But when you think about it, you know, it's really known for basketball and boxing, right? But without further ado, today's guest on the Back community is Dr. Anwar Dunbar. Anwar, thank you for being on the Back community, bro. I can't wait to dive into your story today.
Tyrell, thank you for having me. I appreciate working with you in the DC alumni chapter, and then your willingness to share your expertise in this author's journey, in your author's journey for mine. And I appreciate this opportunity to collaborate. When you start something like this, you understand, okay, well, I've written my own book, but I need to partner with others and I need to collaborate with others. This is not something you do by yourself, even after the book is published.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And well, shout out to you for being humble enough, right, to listen to the other perspective, because I know in your acknowledgement books, in your acknowledgement part of the book, you mention fellow authors who actually helped you to get to the finished product that we have now. So shout out to you for leaning out on other people. I did the same thing when I was going through my writing process. I reached out to people who I knew have gone the traditional route of publishing as well as self-publishing. And then I looked at all of the things that were going on in the market. But Anwar and I had lunch one time to discuss a lot of the things that I've discovered over the self-publishing process. And he was so kind to bring me Mediterranean food that, you know, I normally would not choose, but was delicious. So.
Okay. Well, you know, health choices become important as we progress, but I see you have your own library back there. I'm sure you're at least familiar with the Rich Dad Poor Dad series. My brother's trying to he's working on launching something himself right now, and I'm trying to share with him that everything you do business wise is a team sport, and I think you know, in addition to learning about assets and liabilities and expenses and income, one of the central teachings of that series was it's a team sport. Everything entrepreneurial, everything business related is a team sport. So you can't do any of this by yourself.
Mm. I agree. I agree. Well, listen, man, I tried my best to give you the biggest and the best introduction, Anwar, but I've been doing this for 6 seasons, and I know that nobody can introduce you how you can introduce yourself. So, because I probably left out a lot of the accolades that you have accumulated thus far, leading up to you being a published author now. But please, here's your opportunity to introduce yourself to the Black community. Please tell us. Where you hail from, what it is that you're working on outside of publishing, and let's get ready to dive into this book and what brought us here today. But please introduce yourself to the Black community.
Well, hello to the back community. My name is Dr. Anwar Dunbar. I am a scientist by training at our alma mater, JCSU. I earned my general biology degree, my bachelor's in it was in general biology, and then I went to the University of Michigan to do my PhD, to earn my PhD in pharmacology. So I have a background in pharmacology and toxicology, and I'm in the federal service right now. I like to be discreet about what I do because there are some business interests there, as is with many parts of the government. But I'm a regulatory scientist, but I'm also a storyteller. I wear lots of hats, and I've always enjoyed writing, and I've always enjoyed stories. And I'm particularly fascinated with stories about success and failure, and what makes the successful successful, and how and why things are the way that they are, and how we can improve our lives and the lives of others. So I'm sure this will come out if it's indirectly in this discussion. This is I call this a Gladwellian book. One of my favorite writers slash speakers is Malcolm Gladwell. And so this very much was inspired by Outliers, his book Outliers. So that's a little bit about me. I do dabble in some YouTubing, so you might see me around if you Google me in cyberspace. But and I blog, and I do a bunch of different things. But in this season, I'm very interested to see how building my life out as an author.
Okay, okay. And it's interesting, and I appreciate the fact that you gave us that background and context to know that in the world of science, that is where you have built your livelihood at, and to be able to dare to be different and step out in the author circuit is huge. So, what was it about Western New York and the historic nature of basketball that made you want to put together this book, which is just part one, and highlight the history of basketball in Western New York? What was it that told you that this was a story that needed to be told? And tell us a little bit more about that project and why it came to light.
Yes. Before I jump into that, I just want to say that me and Tyrell, I'm partially an Albany kid. I was born there. And then my mother moved us to Buffalo. So I was born in Albany, but, like 5 through 18, 3 through 18 was spent in Buffalo. So how did this come about? So let's see. So that was that experience, the story that's captured in this book. This was my first time trying to do something. Okay. And as I was writing it, doing the interviews, and even now in the aftermath, trying to sell it and make it prosper, I've realized that a lot of kids wanted to be basketball players. A lot of kids from the inner cities, from the cornfields of Indiana and Iowa, and a lot of kids have had that dream. But for me, and from my background, uh, I fell in love with seeing Michael Jordan and Dominique Wilkins. I just posted a picture of me and Dominique Wilkins on my Facebook page. I fell in love with that, the idea of that. But I also, at that age, I wanted to be a part of something. I wanted to be a part of a brotherhood. And I was looking for mentoring.
Mm.
And for my life circumstance, my parents split when I was early. So my father was stayed out there in the capital region while we were in Buffalo. And I had minimal mentoring from my uncles. That's circumstance. You know, we all have life circumstances. Many of them moved away, and those who stayed, you know, they were doing their own things. But as I was writing this, I realized, you know, uh, their input and their mentoring would have been very, very valuable during that journey. And so I was on a journey where I was kind of building it as I was flying it,
Mm.
learning it piecemeal. And I followed my brother to our only STEM high school in Buffalo. I just happened to have a coach there who was interested in the character of the kids he was going to keep on the team, aside from just their ability. Because I was a project when I was a freshman and a sophomore, didn't know what I was doing, just got interested in the game 2 to 3 years earlier. So I wound up in the right place with the right coach, but also it was a process of piecemealing it, and I didn't understand everything that was happening at that time. And I think one of the things my story should draw out to readers is that having those mentors around you, even at that young age, that makes a difference. But even if you don't have them, you have to do the best that you can. And nobody's life is perfect, but you have to do the best that you can. And I think this parallels much of your messaging as well, Tyrell.
Absolutely. Listen, I mean, as soon as you hit on mentorship, and I know you gingerly were talking about, you know, how the impact your uncles had on you or could have had on you at a time period where, like, you know, your parents had gone through a separation. It's like the realizing that the need for having testosterone or a positive male figure around you is what a lot of young kids need, right? And oftentimes we don't know how to ask for those things. And most times people are telling you that, you know, that feeling, that yearning that you have, that, you know, you're supposed to just shut up, suck it all in, and man up is what most young adults, young men have been taught. And for me, I've always just realized that, and I say this to my three boys a lot now, that I overcompensate sometimes with them because I'm always trying to show up in a way that I wish that someone had showed up for me back then. And that all stems back to mentorship. So when you just focused in on mentorship and was just saying that, you know, like, I know you said by the time you got to high school, you said you had just started playing ball, what, 2 years before that?
In middle school, yep.
Right. All right. So you just started playing ball in middle school, and it was just like, and a lot of it possibly had to do with the influence of what other kids around you or people ahead of you were doing. Or what was it that drew you to basketball?
Well, I like to refer to the 1980s and the 1990s as the quote unquote golden age of basketball. And it's funny. You might see some of this with your kids, whether it's with music or fashion or food or whatever. There was something special about that era. You know, Michael Jordan was just coming up, and you had all the other stars like Bird and Magic, and you had all these young guys coming up in college as well, like Patrick Ewing and Pearl Washington, and you had all these. It was just a great time for the game, pre-internet, pre-social media. Maybe they weren't as athletic as they are now. But that was a magical time, and a lot of kids at that time were dreaming about that. I mean, watching the Wheaties commercials, the Nike commercials, the you know, Magic and Bird, you know, choose your weapons, you know, the coming of the bad boys, you know, there was just something magical about that that I think swept a lot of kids up. Um, in wanting to do that and to be like Mike and to be a Chicago Bull. So I think that was in large part my motivation And then I think again, I really wanted to be a part of something. I really wanted to belong to a group at that time.
Yep. Yep. That was actually where I'm coming back to next. I was gonna say like there was an underlying yearning to be a part of something, and
Yes.
you had alluded to that earlier, and I was just like, what did you find? What was it that stood out to you or resonated with you about the basketball experience that ultimately drew a love for basketball for you? I know you were looking for the camaraderie, you were looking for the space, you were looking for the teamwork. When you got to the experience, being that in a lot of ways you might have been behind from some kids who have been playing multiple years before you, but now you're in this space, Anwar. Tell me about the young Anwar walking onto the basketball court, and what was the experiences like with your teammates and your coaches? Because obviously something must have sparked in you that lasted all of these years that led us to the tipping point and Malcolm Gladwell talk of where we are today. So what did you find what they say, like, when did you fall in love with hip hop? When did you fall in love with basketball?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll answer that question by saying that I think that I didn't appreciate when I fell in love with it. I didn't appreciate how big it was. And it's like in some ways it's like a martial art. It's like the dojo you train in. Um and this is depicted in the story. I had to learn on the streets, well, going to the William Emsley Y in Buffalo, how to play pickup, how to choose winners, how to make yourself available for pickup games. And that to someone listening to that, that might sound kind of silly, but there's street ball, there's organized ball, and there are rules for both. And to play street ball, you have to learn how to go and say, "Hey, I got winners," or can I run on your team, and that type of thing. So there's a social aspect, there's a socialization aspect where you have to go to those arenas and understand what the rules are and how to participate. Now, when I got to our STEM school, Hutch Tech High School, our coach, who's a prominent character in the book, the late Coach Ken Jones, he was very much a Bobby Knight type. So everything was by the book. He had drills and rules and plays for everything and drills for everything. It was a very, very buttoned up approach to playing the game. So it was amazing. I became like a fish in a pond or a duck in water, just learning all the stuff and learning his way of doing things. And I'm emphasizing his way of doing things because the further I went along, this is part of my journey is understanding that, okay, he had a certain way of teaching us, but this was not the only way. I learned this later. This was not the only way to do it, but it was his way. And our success in life is um figuring that out, that you have certain teachers, you have certain masters who you learn from, and you may have to incorporate other styles, other methods as you go along. So to answer your question, I did fall in love with being a part of the team. I did fall in love with his buttoned up textbook system, and also he became like a father slash grandfatherly figure for me. And you see that a lot with kids who don't have um, men, boys in particular, who don't have those men readily around. They find those fathers and those grandfathers in other places, and sometimes those fathers and those grandfathers are of other ethnic groups. And I think your boys are very lucky to have you, Tyrell. You from our conversations, you're a very conscientious and caring father, and yeah, that having those persons there, those mentors, that really matters.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And when I appreciate the sentiments and the compliment, and I'll say, I think that this generation of young men probably have more active male figures than social media or the news portrays. And I think it has come from the lack that most of us grew up without that consistent thing, man, that we actually wanted in our lives, and we ultimately tried to do that. And it's been a journey for me. You know, my oldest is 16, and so I'm 16 years in, and you'll say that I've heard the stories and witnessed the stories of so many other men, myself included, of the battles and the journeys and the difficulties of being there. And you see what happens in the absence of being there too. So, like you said, your coach, Mr. Jones, ended up, Coach Jones was just like a Bobby Knight type figure. And that says a lot without saying anything, right? And it's just like, we need those figures, we need those experiences, and it helps us to be safe. It helps us to figure out who we are as young men, and it helps us to go ahead and figure out how to carve out lanes and spaces for us in those worlds. So earlier you mentioned like just street ball, realizing that you got to learn how to speak up and advocate for yourself, or you're going to be sitting right there and people are going to come in after you and they're going to be playing before you. Just like now, you got to build a certain level of aggression of doing this. Over Thanksgiving, we had family here, and my youngest son, Nehemiah, was up against it against his older brother and one of his cousins. And he ended up coming inside. He was like, they didn't want to, pass it to me or something like that, because we got a hoop out back. Right. And he goes, and I says, listen, to your point, one of those lessons that you have to learn is to how to be assertive, not in a way of being super aggressive to take over, but to make sure that, you're not going to overlook me. And those are skills that um, most of our kids end up missing out on, because I think this generation of parenting, we also coddle so much that we don't help to build resiliency for our young men and women. But to your point, it was like you talked about the experiences of having to learn how to articulate yourself on the basketball court when it's official ball or street ball, and those skills transfer over into life, because there's going to be some times where you have to be more assertive, and there's going to be some times where you're in a completely safe environment and you realize that everyone is team oriented and I'm going to have my turn. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get this out in a logical way. Um, so that actually happened.
Mhm.
Those first couple of times I went to the William Emsley Y in Buffalo. Those from Buffalo who have been there, they know where that is. Literally sat on the benches the first couple of times, just looking, wanting to play. But then it dawned on me at one point, okay, I need to, and it was hard. I need to raise my hand and say, I've got next. I've got next. And other guys would say, oh, okay, well, can I come? Can I run with you? Can I be on your team? And then I would go say to other guys, can I be on your team? So there was a whole, as you said, that was a part of the learning process. You have to learn how to advocate for yourself. And some in my interviews, I learned, I conducted 43 interviews for this. It makes a difference if you have a father or an uncle or a cousin or someone there to teach you that, because that's a step that you'll skip. And some of the kids, some of my peers, they had men to teach them that, so they just knew at that age. They knew. And the pastor at the church I'm a member of here, he had to go to the park with his son, because his son didn't know. His son's not from the inner city, and he had to tell him, look, this is what you do. You have to get yourself in the game. One of the things, I don't want to take up too much time with this, and I think you might have experienced this in your own life, is at some point you have to reconcile and achieve a level of peace with your past. And
Mm.
so in telling this story, I think this story was also a bit of that for me and my family. My uncles, I won't say that they're rotten guys. They're great guys. They know a lot about sports. And in that at that time, um, I, Buffalo was a steel city, so by nature, people moved to look for jobs. So a lot of them left for other opportunities in places like Atlanta, and the village. The village matters, and I think for that generation, they had more of a village than the Gen X, certain parts of the Gen X generation had. And I think that this project, it compelled me and my mother. I think we went through this thing where when I was starting to put this together, maybe I sounded ungrateful for what she did. And I think maybe she wondered to herself, did I do enough? Okay. I tried my best. Okay. So in telling this, I acknowledge that mom, yes, you did do your best. But there are those crucial things that others you need from others. And in a village format, I think you're able to partake in those lessons from other parts of your family much more readily than when you're on your own little island. And sometimes that's by circumstance.
Absolutely. And Anwar, I think that what you just said, I identify with as well. I think in my book, I talk about how my mom did as much as she possibly could with the tools that she had to teach me how to be a decent young man. But even in what she was able to create, I still had a yearning from wanting to feel it and to see it from people who were genetically made up the same way that I was, and whether that was my father, whether that was my brother. Like I got three older brothers, two younger brothers, right? Tons of cousins. So but sometimes we learn toxic masculinity too. And it was just like, but I think my mom as a woman did the best she could to get me to go ahead and be prepared for the world that was around me. Because my mom was pretty aggressive herself. So she taught me, hey, well, you know what, this is don't trust this, or don't trust this person, or whatever it was. So she gave me a lot of game, gave me a lot of rearing that ultimately helped me when I was going through the streets. But also ultimately, the more I started to try to figure out myself, I did realize that I was craving that type of leadership, whether it came from my dad or my older brothers. And for me, a lot of times it was my older brothers. But and it's important. So it's no shade to our mothers or to any women out there, because if I had a daughter, I couldn't teach my daughter how to be a woman because I'm not a woman. I'm so thankful God gave me boys, because listen, when they're trying to skip out on a shower, or skip out on wiping their butt good, all that stuff, like, bro, I get it. I did it too. It was just like, it's like, how you know? Because I once was in the same shoe as you, in the same boat as you. So that's what. So I think, though it may come off as something else, like you said, your mom had taken it a certain way at some point. It may come off as something else, but at some point we get to a place of speaking our own truth. And some of that might be hurtful to hear, but it's not to diminish the part that they played in any way. But it's just saying that even with all that you've done, I still lacked this, or I still crave this. And I think that that's a fair position to take.
Yep.
Yep. But I have to ask this, because the theme of season 6 is all about expanding your range, right? And
Mm-hmm.
to be a scientist by nature, right? And to do the dissecting work that you've done to create this book. I think you had 40 plus interviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much did you have to expand your range, or step outside of your norm in order to create this book? And actually, as I said, I want to rephrase it. What does it mean to expand your range? And then my follow-up question is going to be, how much did you have to expand your range to create this body of work that we have in front of us today?
Well, to me, when I hear expanding your range, well, there's an obvious basketball context there, but I think you're talking about personal, professional, entrepreneurial. It's doing things that are uncomfortable, that may be uncomfortable. It's stretching yourself in ways that you haven't stretched before. It's taking some chances, and it's just doing things that you wouldn't normally do to achieve an objective. So let's go back to the 43 interviews. I know people say social media has done a lot of harm to society, but I reached out to guys whom some of whom we were kind of in the same peer group at that time. I'm thinking about Jason Rowe and Carlos Bradbury and Damian Foster. These are our interviews that I published. We didn't really have a history. So I had to reach out to them, say, hey, guys, I'm working on this project. I played around the same time that you did. I didn't really go on to play afterward like you guys did, but I'd like to talk to you about your experience at that time. And you know, when you're reaching out to somebody like that, they could easily ignore you. They could say thanks, but no thanks, or how much do you want? How much money you want to give me, or whatever. So there was a process of putting myself out there, and then you know we get on these conference calls, and these are guys that you know because of what they were able to get done, I looked up to, and I still look up to some degree. So you're having conversations with people you don't know, and there was a lot of that. So that was stretching. Working on something, working long hours on something where you don't know what the end result is going to be and if it's going to reach fruition. Uh, that's outside of what you trained academically for. That's a form of stretching yourself and expanding your range, investing resources in ISBN numbers and editing services and copywriting your art. That's all expanding your range and making yourself uncomfortable. But it's part of what you have to do to pursue your dream and to create your art and your products.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, now we're here, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've expanded your range. You've decided to dare to be different. You've decided to gamble on yourself, which ultimately put you in a position to reach out to people who you consider to be greats, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're here. We have this body of work in front of us. And as a result of expanding your range, like I said, you took a gamble on yourself. How have you been rewarded as a result of your decision to expand your range? How has the author journey experience been for you?
Yeah, it's been a mixture of things because you know once you publish the book, and we've talked about this, you realize that you know there are more steps. You have to network, you have to market, you have to. And let me just say something about that in terms of expanding your range. If you didn't go formally train in marketing, that's a little scary too. Reminding, see, I don't even want to say reminding, but announcing on your social media, uh, you know that hey, I wrote this book. You know, it's a cool book. You know, you have to kind of put on a different hat and say, okay, well, yeah, some people might be their eyes might start glazing over at some point, but this is part of marketing. This is McDonald's does this, Nike does this, uh, Target does this, Honda does this. So, in terms of the benefits, uh, you know, obviously, you know, you're looking to generate sales, but um, there's a networking aspect. There is a speaking aspect. I had my first signing in April in Buffalo, and I participated in a authors panel at the CBC. Shout out to Dr. Paul Miller.
Oh,
Uh, Getting the messaging out and helping others who you know need the help. I think that's probably the biggest benefit.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, which
Uh,
and that's something I'd like to do more of is to speak and get out and speak and tell this story and tell these messages
uh,
live.
um, marketing is a billion-dollar industry, and I know one of the things that when we first started having these conversations, I told you about the beauty or the importance for me from reading a book called Contagious, right?
Got my copy right here. I had it ready in the chamber. We didn't talk about it in our last interview, but everybody listen to Tyrell. After Tyrell said go out and get this book, I went out and got this book. And go ahead, have my copy. In addition to Tyrell's books.
Listen, that book, I wish that I had it earlier in my career, right? Because like I said, my first entrepreneurial opportunity was creating a youth mentoring program that we turned into a 501c3 non-for-profit. And that's social media was just becoming a thing. It wasn't what it was right now, but I just realized that I did a really good job utilizing the tools that I had at the time, but I never really understood marketing in its full capacity. Like I said, it's $1 billion industry. Like you name some names: Honda, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, whoever. They spend billions of dollars to make sure that they put their products in front of us. So imagine individuals like you and I up against a machine that has tons of money to throw at it, even in the author space, right? Um, the amount of dollars that are thrown towards publishing your books and getting you to do author speaks and all of these different things, it's tons of money in it. So I'm glad that you touched on that. Part of expanding your range was also, challenge yourself to get out of your comfort zone with marketing. And it's actually I heard an artist talk about it one time on his platform on Instagram, and he was just saying that he said, I actually had to grade myself and give myself a grade level of a D. He says, I never promote my own music. And he says, I'm always reposting everybody else's music. I'm always advocating for other people. But he says, I will post my own music one time, right? And he says, I think he said, and this is Joyner Lucas, right? But he says, it wasn't until he met Will Smith that he ended up saying that, like, you need to do more to promote yourself. Posting it one time isn't enough, right? I think that some people are in the thought of thinking that if you post it, that one post that you put is actually going to go to all your friends. All of your friends are going to see that, or all of the new people who want to know about Dr. Dunbar is going to get it from that one post. The truth of the matter is that you have to consistently post and do more posts and realize that just because you posted that one post, it might have been watched or viewed by 80 of your friends, but it didn't get to the rest of them. So you have to continue to post. And sometimes, but I learned these strategies and these little helpful tricks from out of Contagious. And it was just saying, like, know your price, set your price, be able to turn something normal and create a viral experience as a result of it. And that book was so helpful to me as it pertained to marketing.
Yes, yes. I was telling my brother that this entrepreneurial author's journey, it's been, and I'm sure you've experienced this yourself, it's one big psychological study as well, because another a bigger media personality whose name I won't mention um, said that the human beings need to see something 9 times ballpark before it locks in for some. Some will see it and they'll buy it because it's, oh, Tyrell wrote it, I want to support Tyrell. But everybody's so in their own little, people are posting their own pictures, people are in their own little world. You have to run it multiple times, as you said, for it to start to click in with some people. So this has also been one big psychological study, which is why schools of marketing, that's why they study that too. The human brain, the human senses, human behavior. That's a major part of this.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it 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 uh it affects your overall successfulness of whatever it is that you're marketing. It could be music, it can be a book, it can be clothing, it could be something that you've created, right? But all of it ultimately stems back to how much you're going to put in to promote it and to get it out to other people. And I use this analogy a lot. It's probably going to be the wrong analogy to say right now, but I use this analogy a lot of just like a lot of people think that the support that you're going to get is going to come from your immediate friends and family. That's not really how it works,
No.
right? And I say this a lot. I was just like, Jesus had to go outside of his own town for people to recognize his unique works, right? Because sometimes the people that you're around, oftentimes they'll always remember you as, you know, little D instead of big D with a doctor in front of it, right? Or it might be, I remember you, Tyrell Snotnose, not, Tyrell Hughes, the man at 42. But you have to realize that the people who are going to support you is an audience that hasn't even met you yet. And it's your job and your responsibility to get your product, to get your book in the front of them. And what better way of doing it than to use different social media avenues and to consistently and constantly do it. And that's when you start to build your audience and to get the support that's really out there for your project. Another Smithite of ours, my friend Mike Sims, always says like he encouraged me years ago. He was like, so, Tyrell, sometimes you have to speak what it is that you want to happen, speak it into existence, and allow the world to do its thing. But imagine saying that, hey, I wanted to reach out to Anwar, but I was too scared because I wasn't sure if he was going to receive my ask, right? Imagine if you never reached out to those 43 people to interview in your book, what the engineers would be like without their contributions, right? And sometimes we have to speak it into existence and then let the world take care of the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I add something onto that?
Absolutely.
I think that was a major learning point too, is that, okay, you have all these blood relatives and you have all these Facebook friends, and Facebook is different than the other platforms because you know all those people. But when you go in and you make your thing, in this instance, it's a book, yeah, you have to go in with the understanding that, okay, everybody's not gonna, you don't know who's gonna support it. Let me put it that way. You don't know who's gonna support it. And regardless of who does, part of your job at this point is, you mentioned Jesus, and this is not this my book and your books, they're not the gospel, they're not the New Testament, but you have to treat it like your gospel. You have to go tell people. And that's something that really clicked after CBC, is that you're a mobile salesman, you're a mobile salesperson. So you have to tell and share when you're at your federal job in an ethical way.
Yep. Yep.
But just tell people, and you'll be surprised just by telling people. Some people will say, "Oh yeah, where can I get it?" Just immediately, where can I get it? And I appreciate those people who do that. But you have to be open about that.
Okay. Yeah, and it's like you said, in an ethical way, it's definitely a fine line, right? But I've learned how to realize that I think that our superpower is channeling the experiences that we've had and showing up as a result of our experiences, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
I uniquely show up at work in this federal space, but I bring my authenticity that I've learned from the world with me to these spaces. It shows up in executive meetings, it shows up in friendships that I create at work. I recently had a person actually purchase my book as a result of at my desk at work. I have both Just a Kid from Arbor Hill, A Story of Beating the Odds, and The Big Chop sitting right there underneath a lamp. And they're sitting there. And I don't even sit at my desk anymore. I sit somewhere else, right? So someone shot me a pop-up and it's like, hey, Ty, she says, I apologize in advance, but I went into your space and I seen the book. I said, I kept walking by it. And she says, I took one of your books one day and I started to read it. I started to read the kids' book first. She's like, I was so impressed and so amazed. She was like, I I see you got a QR code, and the QR code takes me to get the books and says I'm going to go ahead and purchase it that way, right? But also, just like I think I think this is one of the greatest failures for people who are in for working and also creating new opportunities for themselves. Oftentimes, we feel that it's a conflict for us to talk about what we're doing outside. For some people, there might be a natural conflict. For others, it's not. It's not even related at all. And it's just like there's nothing unethical for me being able to show up and to tell you what it is that I'm working on as part of my evolution as a human being. I have other interests outside of work, and this is who I am. And the more you speak up and let people know about Dr. Anwar Dunbar that exists outside of that particular role, people can fall in line and get a chance to see it. Because this ultimately is your brand now. You're building your own brand. People are getting a chance to fall in love with you or fall out of love with you. Some people are going to fall in love with you. Some people are going to fall out of love with you. But ultimately, you're the representation of that. You're the greatest salesperson for that. So when I see this book, it's ultimately like I'm thinking about Anwar right away. And it was just like our job is to help other readers or people in the world know what's in it for them. Right. And I think oftentimes, and I tell people who've asked me questions about writing since then, because now I've helped, I think 7 or 8 people on books since I've published my first. And I always tell them, it's like, don't just think about just writing for you, right? Think about how that story will resonate with somebody else, because as human beings, as creatures, everyone's mentality is always what's in it for me, right? So when you're writing, you want to write in a way, why would someone want to read my story? Why is it important for people to understand the history of Western New York and basketball? How does basketball tie into life skills? Like people think about the game of chess all the time, but basketball has some of those same core fundamentals that, if utilized correctly, can be extremely beneficial.
Yes, I agree. Well, one quick thing here, everybody. I jokingly mentioned ethics, but this is an inside joke. As federal employees, we have to take all kinds of trainings, and there are all kinds of things we have to kind of stay clear of and just be mindful of. And we have an annual ethics training, so that's where that comes from. We're not doing anything illegal. So, but to your latter point, yes. What's in it for them? Pretty much everybody, the 43 players and coaches that I interviewed, they all said that those who went on to do something else besides basketball, because like the college commercial says, there are a million college athletes, only 1% goes on to play for the pros. There were so many lessons from those experiences. So many of those lessons translated into our workplaces. So Tyrell just talked about what's in it for me, and you learn so much from the game. I think that's something that was echoed over and over and over again, is that, yeah, I work for the city planning department or the city public works, and I have to think about what's best for the team, and I have to think about how to promote my my coworkers, and how I could sacrifice for the team, and how to keep going to work every day when I don't feel like it, or how to soldier through something even though it's killing me. That's the you see kids playing these sports and investing time in it, but they're getting a lot of life skills there as well.
Absolutely. My oldest, like I said, he's in 10th grade. He went for an interview yesterday. We actually have to go back today, but we were doing prep questions of what they could possibly ask him, and one of the questions I asked him in preparation for it was just like, can you give me an experience, where you've been under pressure or it affected other people, and how did you respond? Right. And his immediate example to use was a basketball reference, because basketball is near and dear to him. Right. So you have all of these lessons. And I think our job is crafting it and marketing it in a way that people can see what's in it for them. Right. Because oftentimes it's like, in a world full of all of these books and movies, what is it that's going to make my book stand out? And that's going to lead me to my next question for you, Anwar. knowing how much love and dedication and meticulous care that you put into this project, what is the overall message that you want people to take away from when they get their copy of the Engineers, a Western New York basketball story?
The overall message, I would say, is that uh, life is not perfect. Okay. And a mentor, we talked about that, but you just have to do the best that you can. Uh, Try to control those things that are in your sphere, but there are also going to be things that you don't have control over. I All of us make mistakes on our way to where we're going, our final destinations, our multiple stops. But just yeah, you just have to try to do your best with what you have at that time. And some things you can affect, some things you do have control over, and some things you don't.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. And if I was someone who was new to learning about Dr. Dunbar, where could I go to find out more about what it is that you're working on, where to purchase my own copies of the book? What platforms can I go to learn more about you? You know, I know Big Words is a huge platform for you, but please, I want people to understand how to find you and to know where to find you. So where can I find out all things about Dr. Anwar Dunbar?
Okay. So we'll start with the book. This is available on Amazon in the e-book, hardcover, and paperback editions. I do have my own online store on the Big Words Authors site. That's my own writer's blog, and I have a store there where I'm selling personal author copies that I will sign. So you could do a quick Google search and find that. My first blog is called the Big Words blog site. I was able to monetize that, so I'm publishing a lot of smaller pieces from a customer there. I have a YouTube presence. Um, I have several channels. I know that sounds a little chaotic, but I was able to monetize that to some degree, at least two of them. And there I talk with on the multiple platforms. I talk about different things. But you can find me on YouTube. You can, in large part, just Google me, and a lot of things will come up. And I'm on most social media platforms. YouTube is a social media platform, but LinkedIn, X. I do have a TikTok. Still mastering how to use that. The still shots work well for me. The live stuff that the platform hasn't liked some of my live things. So uh, my pre-recorded things. So long story short, I'm on several platforms. I have two writers blogs, and one has my online store. So I think that pretty much sums it up.
Okay, and don't worry, I'm going to add links to where you can find Dr. Dunbar's books and his platforms. I'm actually going to add him as a co-collaborator on YouTube as well. So if you let me know which ones, because I know you said you got several of them, but I'll make sure that they're added and tied in as well, because it'll make it easier for the people to reach out to you directly and for you to enlarge in your audience. And that is what the back community is about 100%, right? Was able to take a platform that was used to highlight other individuals and spotlight some dope individuals throughout the world. And that platform ultimately gave back to me as well, just as a result of trying to pour into other people. And that's allowing the universe to uniquely do what it does. But I got two more questions for you before I let you get out of here.
All right.
One of them is going to be throughout this process of writing, what failures or setbacks do you think that you have experienced? And ultimately, how have you overcome them, or are you still overcoming those, if there are any?
That's a really good question. And I'll answer that by saying that I think the biggest lesson I learned from you and from writing this as a self-published author is that every part of creating this was a job. Okay. And another author, when I told him about some of my experiences, he pointed out that you've gained a lot of experience becoming a project manager, because that's when you're the author, that's what you are. And I realized that every at Pendant Random House, I think Pendant's from Seinfeld, Random House, Penguin Publishing, each part of bringing a book to the market is a job, and each job, I mean, there are other jobs beyond just actually writing your story, that the editing, the proofreading, the cover generation, the QA QC on the end, at the end, to make sure all the margins are the same and all the subtitles are consistent and the page numberings are consistent. Each part of that is a job. And my first time around, I didn't do all of those jobs perfectly. And I think it's the story of my life. I have to kind of go through things and mess some things up before I understand, okay, this is what you don't do. This is how to do it more efficiently, and so that it works. So there were and proofreading, even just blogging, you have to respect every part of the process. Even when you start to experience success, don't get lazy and forget what got you there, because those mistakes that you made, those will crop up again. Um, yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Okay, I actually like that. I like it. And it's it's there's a certain beauty in failure for me. And
Hmm.
my wife used to hate for me to say this, right? Because we used to use this Cam Newton reference in the household all of the time. Because Cam said this thing one time. He says, "Show me somebody who likes to lose, and I'll show you a loser," right? And I'd be like, "Listen, I don't mind losing." Because even when I am losing, I am learning. So it's really not a loss for me because, like you said, like sometimes I got to go through an experience to be able to say, okay, now I know the do's and the don'ts of that one. I'm not going to make that same mistake in the future. But now that experience has become valuable that I can give that same experience to other people. And if I do that enough, it makes my overall experience valuable that I can sell it, I can monetize it, and show people the pitfalls to avoid. Here's the fastest way to fast track you to get to where ultimately you want to be. And so that's why I don't mind losing. I don't mind failure. It doesn't rub me the same way that it might rub somebody else. And I think that finally, after, 13 years of relationship, my wife finally understands that too. But she used to pick on me a lot because I was like, listen, I don't mind losing. It's like if I play you in a game of basketball today, Anwar, and you beat me, guess what? I'm gonna be okay because in that game of basketball, I had learned, which side you favor, where you like to get your jump shots up at, and how quick or slow you end up moving. Right. My next time playing you, I'm going to be well equipped to go ahead and deal with you as a result of what I learned from that initial failure. So I love what you said there and realizing that you learned as a part of your writing experience early on, each part is its own part and you can't cheat any of the parts. And sometimes you got to go through the experience to remember that.
Yeah, really quickly, Tyrell. Uh, this was my first year going to CBC as an author, but I when President Obama was in the White House, I got a press credential because I was writing for Examiner.com, and I was trying to write up things daily in real time. And normally I would send my articles over to my mother to proofread, but I didn't have time. I was trying to get them up and make them what they call it, newsworthy, because you had to get it up in 2 days to get a certain distinction. And I remember I published up this piece on CBC. It was 2014, and I remember one of the things I did was misspell President Obama's name.
Woo.
And they looked at it, they flagged it, they said this is riddled with errors. So we're taking away all of your stuff now has to go through our QA/QC process again until you prove that you don't need it anymore. And I said, okay, this is embarrassing, number one. And number two, I just learned that however quickly I need to get this up, it has to go through the QA/QC process first. Yeah, no matter what I do, ideally.
Yep. And once you start to do it, and it becomes normal, right? It's part of the process, right? It's like I'm a creature of habit. I live in patterns. I live in systems. I can thrive because even setting up for an interview, it's the same exact thing every time. I know exactly what I need to do because I do it exactly the same way every time. When I drive, I'm in the car. For the most part, I go exactly the same way every single time because, I'm a creature of habit, right? So when you create these systems to live in, like if you're going to edit something, right? I'm going to edit the same way every time because I know that same process I'm going through every time. So by the time somebody else gets it, you might find something else, but it's not going to be that same error because I went through that same exact process every time. So I like that. So like sometimes you have to have those reminders to yourself. Like I tell my kids this too, the two younger ones, don't ever be in a rush. Like we do a lot of math problems. We do a lot of trivia with each other, even on the rides to school or from school, right? And my two younger ones are really, really good in math, right? And they're 7 and 9. And when they get it wrong, it's always because they're trying to compete with the other one. And I'll have to tell them to slow down. This is not a competition between you and your brother, right? This is a competition between you and you. Slow down. When you slow down and take your time, you'll always get it right. But when you're at the mercy or the speed or the demand of the world or somebody else, sometimes we often skip those steps. But if you stay within your own system every time, consistently, you'll always create the most authentic work, the most genuine, close to spot on answer that you can create. All right. All right. Anwar, I have to ask you, at this stage in life, after all of your experiences, Albany, Buffalo, Charlotte, Michigan, right? When you look back over your life and the experiences that you've had thus far to be the man that you are today, what about your life's path are you most proud of?
Wow. Tyrell, that's honestly that's something I haven't sat down and stopped to think about because we get once you start working and you're pursuing your degrees and then you're working on this, you're working on that. That's honestly something I haven't um sat down and thought about. But what I will say is that uh one of the things I pride myself on is making a difference when I write something or when I share something and people resonate with it and they say that they liked it and they agreed with it. Uh, I'm most proud when I feel like I'm making a difference. Okay, a quick story. I have a younger cousin in Buffalo, similar to me. He doesn't have a father around. This last time I was home, I took him to Macy's, got him a button down. He's 11 years old. Got him a button down shirt, got him a tie. I said, I'm going to teach this young man how to tie a tie because if I don't do it, no one else is going to do it. Plus he said he wants to be president one day, so he's gonna have to learn sooner or later. But we we it It was my first time teaching someone how to do that, and he struggled with it. But I think years from now, when he looks back, he's going to remember, okay, cousin Anwar took me to do this, and he struggled there with me trying to teach me how to do it. But he took the time to try to show me. And I think it's the people who invest in us and take the time that they don't need to take, time that they could be spending on something else. We remember those people, and we're really grateful for those people.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I feel bad for that young man because this is a quarter zip a trend right now. Okay, so you could have helped shorten up this process. He might not even need the tie, but you could put it underneath it. But all he needs is a quarter zip. All right,
That's true. That's true. That's the current thing.
everybody's talking about quarter zip, quarter zip. So, but the message, as you said, that will resonate with him is time, and that's one thing that I've learned, mentoring people for over 20 something years, and being a father, is that young adults or children spell love as time, time. So however you choose to show up, when you choose to show up, how often and consistent you show up is how young adults take away how well you love them or not. So you taking that time is an ultimate investment in him that will later yield dividends, that only could have been received by investing time. So kudos to you.
Tyrell, I have to add this in. I know we're a little bit over, but there are a lot of underlying themes to this basketball story, and I don't want to give away part two at this time, but this is something, in going back to my mom and her brothers, my uncles, our family. One of the biggest lessons I learned here is just what you described. Not all gifts are monetary. Okay. The biggest gift you can give someone, and to a young person oftentimes, is your time. They're going to spend that $50 up. They're going to go buy a video game. They're going to go buy some sneakers. But you showing that young man or young girl how to tie a tie, or how you shot your jump shot, or how to look out for other things that their coach is not teaching them, maybe just taking them to McDonald's for a burger to talk. That's the most valuable gift.
So there you have it. The big words from out of the author's mouth himself, Dr. Anwar Dunbar, author of The Engineers, a Western New York basketball story. Part one, as he alluded to, this is only part one of, I'm not sure how many is going to come out of this series, but we have part one in front of us. And Anwar, I want to say, first and foremost, thank you for allowing me to bring you on the Back Community Podcast to highlight what it is that you're doing. Two, thank you for gambling on yourself and trusting the writing process. As a person who values words and understands the significance of it, your story, your book is going to resonate and continue to resonate with the audiences and the people that it was intended to resonate with. So never question the potency of what it was that you created. And ultimately, as long as you're following those things in that book, Contagious, like I said, it's going to continue to get out to audiences and villages and people who love basketball, who don't know basketball, but want to understand basketball. But ultimately, we're always going to be looking back to you as the brand of the Engineers, and who is going to become the knowledgeable source of that brand. And I wish you continued success on this journey. I wish you sincere happiness, right? Realizing that the goods and the bad, the good parts and the bad parts of writing ultimately is going to shape how you come out on the other side as a writer and how you continue to mentor and influence others. So I just want to say kudos to you for taking the time and the opportunity to dare to be different and giving us this beautiful body of work. And I want to say, thank you.
Tyrell, thank you. I wanted to note that the title, the last part of the title is "Innocent Basketball Dreams," and there's a reason I named it that. Uh,
I completely missed that part because
that's okay. It's a long title, but that was intentional. Innocent basketball dreams, innocent basketball dreams, innocence, everything. We all start our journeys off. We might start at the same start line, but our journeys are all different. And it's not until the rubber meets the road and you start off on your path that you start to experience life. It might start off innocently, but you're going to have lessons and learning points along the way. Tyrell, thank you for your mentorship, your friendship, and also for allowing me to come to your platform and talk to your community about what it is that I'm doing.
Oh, without a doubt. Hey, the back community, I look forward to getting Anwar's story out to you. Thank you as always for staying involved and staying engaged. Until next time, happy holidays to you all, and we'll see you next time on the back community. Thank you, Dr. Anwar.
It's for all of the trials and tribulations. Just look at my mom made it. I said I was gonna change it, I did. And I know that we all destined for greatness.